Hello, welcome to Beyond the Boundary. This is the preview for the first qualifying final.
It's Sydney versus Fremantle, Saturday afternoon at ANZ Stadium. Last time these two teams met, it was round 5 at the SCG. Sydney won that one by 17 points. The votes our group gave for the game, Josh Kennedy had 3, Ben McGlynn with the 2, and Dean Rampy got the 1. In the last 5 encounters between these two sides, it's 2 wins each and a draw, which is absolutely exceptional.
I'll tell you what, that doesn't get much closer than that, guys. 2 wins each and a draw.
We'll have a quick look at their finals path, through September. Obviously, they're at the top of the draw. The winner of this game goes straight through to the first preliminary final, where they will face one of Hawthorn, Geelong, North Melbourne, or Essendon. The loser of this game will go through to the first semi-final, where they will face the winner of Port Adelaide and Richmond. Starting with Sydney boys, they lost to Richmond by 3 points in the weekend. What'd you make of it, Vinay?
I thought they were pretty unfortunate, actually, boys. I thought they were better. They were the better team for the day, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that. But I honestly thought the way that they came back, the number of inside 50s they had in that last quarter, really should have found a goal from there. I thought there were some questionable 50-metre penalties given in that third quarter to Richmond that got them to the top of the goal square, but we're not going to dwell on that. But honestly, I think Sydney, what I'm trying to establish is that Sydney, people should not look at their loss to Richmond and say, oh, nah, look, they lost to Richmond. They're not going to be, they're not serious flag contenders, because they still are.
I don't take a huge amount, probably not as much, that game would be more about Richmond than it was about Sydney.
Correct.
You obviously saw that with them resting players beforehand.
Yep.
Buddy Franklin out, McGlynn out, you've got
Kennedy out Craig
as well.
Bird, Mike Pike, So.
Obviously, a lot of teams do that with the last game of the season.
Yep.
They're not going in that with huge expectations. You saw late in the game, the ball was just being bombed back and forward between the two teams. It wasn't really like Sydney were giving 110% to win that game. I thought Dan Hanbury really stood out. He had 33 disposals, 10 tackles. He was just great all day for the Swans.
He was.
It was his type of game, really. The conditions that he played in. He had 13 contested, I think it was.
Yep.
He was easily the best player on the ground, in my opinion.
Yep. From both clubs, probably.
Yeah, from both clubs, absolutely. And the way... He was out injured for about a month a couple of weeks ago. He came back a couple of weeks ago, sorry.
Yep.
Took his time to get back into it, but now he's really starting to motor.
Hit his straps. And what a great time to do it.
Yeah.
Nick Malcheski has been absolutely exceptional all year.
7 rebound 50s he had in the weekend.
29 disposals. So he's obviously, he gets a lot of the ball off half back. And he has to become a focus point for opposition teams, because he's the guy that provides all that run. Coming out of the defensive half. He's a good kick, so he'll hurt you. And he runs all day.
Tom Mitchell,
I tell you what,
he's really highlighted the depth here. We've been talking for quite a few weeks. He wasn't in the side. Sydney were in such great form with this quality of player on the sidelines. He's had 13 tackles to go with his 29 disposals against quality opposition in a big game. Is he gonna continue to be in that side?
He has to be.
I don't know.
He has to be. For me, we've got McGlynn, Kennedy, Bird coming in.
He hasn't been in Sydney's best side this year.
The thing is, you've got guys like McGlynn, Bird and Kennedy coming in, all of which play roles that Mitchell currently plays. But you cannot simply drop a man after he has 29 touches, 13 tackles, 8 marks, 6 inside 50s, I think. He was just 3 inside 50s, a score assist. You can't do that. Because what that does is it kills the kid's confidence. And eventually, players, what happened to them is they get vexed. They get frustrated with the club. This is exactly what happened with Sam Doherty last year in Brisbane. He kept having very good games, and then he kept getting dropped because some other player was coming back. And what did he do at the end of the year? He said, look, I'm putting in, 110%, and you keep dropping me, I'm leaving. And there have been a lot of rumours buzzing around that front that Tom Mitchell might leave. But even regardless of that, he has to be played. He's such a good player.
But then you've got players like Ben McGlynn to come in. He's been one of their best this season. He's averaged seven tackles a game for the year. I just don't see that there's a player in that 22 that's been so strong all year long that you can just drop for Tom Mitchell.
You have to find a spot for a good player. That's the bottom line. When a player plays well, you've got to find a spot for them. The simplest solution is to drop him. That's the simplest solution, but the best sides don't go with the simple solutions. You look at Hawthorn. John Segler came in, played an excellent game. Ben McAvoy was ready. Did they drop Segler? No, they didn't. They said, look, Segler's playing excellent football.
Yep.
He's playing better than Ben McAvoy. And they played him because that's what the top clubs do. They don't give priority purely because a player is more higher profile than another.
Well, I guess, are they going to leave Josh Kennedy in the reserves?
I definitely not. Obviously not. Josh Kennedy's probably their best player.
Well, I guess at the very worst, you're going to have someone, a very quality player, whether it's Tom Mitchell or someone else, playing as the sub. Because they'll just get pushed to that 20 second.
What I honestly think, this is going to be a very contentious point of debate, but I think one man in that lineup should be the sub. based on one, his fitness at the moment, B, his form at the moment.
Who's that?
Adam Goods. I think, honestly, he's a star player. I'm not having a go at the man. He's a dual Brownlow medalist. He's a champion of the game, arguably greatest Indigenous footballer of all time.
Yep.
But the form that he is in, the game that he played against Richmond was very poor. And he'll know that. And this season, he hasn't shown that much to warrant him being selected over a kid like Tom Mitchell, who's played out of his skin in the one opportunity he's been given.
Yep.
He's been given one game, and he's absolutely rocked the boat. I reckon play Goods as a sub.
I just think really that you've got three guys coming in Kennedy, McGlynn and Bird, all play a similar role to what Mitchell does. And unfortunately...
There's only so many midfielders you have
unfortunately, Kennedy, McGlynn and Bird take priority over Mitchell.
Are in the pecking order.
And unfortunately, you look at the likes of Jake Lloyd, plays a different role.
Yep.
Harry Cunningham plays a different role. So you look at those two and think, why can't you just take them out?
Sydney would have to change their structure.
Exactly right.
Well, there's an obvious solution. I mean, Zach Jones was playing inside on the weekend, and you'd think he'd probably be one sure to make way this week.
Yeah, he'll come out,
Yeah, Sam Naismith is another. What I'm saying is that there is a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
Well, it's a good problem to have, boys. There's two more players we want to touch on just quickly. Luke Parker's been in some exceptional form. He had 17 contested possessions on the weekend to go with 9 tackles, 7 clearances. Tore that game apart. Pity you couldn't get them over the line.
He's one of your favourites, Josh.
For the Swans.
He's 21, by the way.
He's a gun.
And Ted Richards, who'll be very important for them this week. He finished with 11 1%ers there.
Not sure why he didn't play on Jack Rewald, to be honest.
Who did take Rewald?
Dane Rampy.
Oh, okay, well, there we go. That's why he got 3 on you.
Now, there's a man who didn't play on the weekend. He's Lance Franklin. He's kicked 26 goals and taken 43 marks in his last 5 games. That is some crazy form. He's averaging 5 goals and 9 marks in that period.
There's a little rumour going around that they actually pulled him out because he had 43 carryover points that expire this week. And they didn't want to risk him.
Didn't want to risk him adding to that.
Didn't want to risk him getting suspended, is what you're suggesting there. That is quite a humorous reason to leave someone out, but, I guess they didn't want to take any chances.
Anyway, boys.
I guess West Coast would be a bit more about that.
We'll move on to the Dockers. They defeated Port Adelaide by 8 points on the weekend. Lachie Neale, one of the best. He had 6 clearances in that game.
He's had a breakout year for me. He's just eased into that Fremantle midfield nice and easy. He's always had that talent in his career, but this year he's just shown it completely.
He's only
competition,
and he's one of those guys that only surfaces when one of the big 3 are down.
Yeah,
he only really comes into the side when one of Fife, Barlow, and Mundy are down.
Yeah,
otherwise you never see him in the team, which is so odd because he's such a gun when he plays.
He's played almost every game this year.
Oh, okay. Well then, all right. But okay. Well, I think maybe he gets more of a midfield role then.
Yeah.
As opposed to whatever else they're using, a half forward kind of role.
Yeah.
So he's one of those guys that only really pokes his head up when those 3, one of them is down. But he's been spectacular.
Michael Walters was also very good on the weekend. He finished with 3 goals, 3 score assists. But someone who's been good for a lot longer than that is Hayden Ballantyne. In his last 9 games, he's been averaging 3.6 goals. He's had bags of 5, bags of 6 consistently. I think he finished with 49 goals for the home away season. Yep. Absolutely terrific fall from him.
Absolutely. I said it last week that I believe Walters and Ballantyne are the best small forward combo in the competition by a long way.
Yep.
Can you believe Michael Walters has played less than 50 games?
It's hard to believe.
No, he's almost like Jamie Elliott. When you told me that he's played less than 50 games,
it's like he's played 150. But Hayden Ballantyne, he's one of the best small forwards in the competition. And I would not be surprised if he's in the All Australian side this year. He's just had a magnificent year.
Yep,
correct.
One player I wanted to ask you about, Vinay, Michael Barlow. He's in some terrific form at the moment.
He is, and he's in my own coinage, he's the silent operator, Josh. The silent operator of that Fremantle midfield. And the reason I say that is because we always notice Nathan Fife.
Yep.
And, you always even notice the kind of things that David Mundy or Lachie Neale do, Stephen Hill. But Michael Barlow, week in, week out, without fail, he will get you near on 30 disposals. He'll assist a few goals. He'll tackle hard. He'll get a lot of clearances. And he's as worthy of a tag as anyone else in that midfield.
It's probably fair enough. And you mentioned Nathan Fife. He's been in some terrific form all year. Obviously suspended for the last
2 weeks, but he'll be back this week. Yeah,
he'll be back this week, back with a vengeance.
Nice and fresh.
Nice and fresh.
He will be, and It's interesting because that Fremantle midfield was well publicised. They're very tall, aren't they, Josh?
They are.
A very tall midfield.
I think all of them...
190 plus.
Except one and 190
I think
plus.
Barlow's 188 or something, but the Fife and Mundy are definitely 190 plus. So big boys in that midfield.
Now, boys, we're going to move on to some of the key matchups in this game. First one, Matthew Pavlich versus Ted Richards. As I mentioned, Ted Richards, he had 11 1%ers on the weekend. It's going to be really key against one of the most dangerous key forwards in the game when he's on.
Oh, we've seen in recent years, boys, with Fremantle in the finals, that Matthew Pavlich has been...
He's the one that stands up.
He's the one that really stands up, and he is very, very dangerous. He gets going, he brings the whole Fremantle side up and about.
Yep.
So it's going to be a massive matchup.
Well, he wants it, doesn't he? He's Fremantle's greatest player of all time.
Yep.
And he wants that flag. He just wants it, and you can tell it. He's just such a determined character. You'd think that Richards would have his measure because Ted Richards is an extremely good defender, but it'll be a challenge to... They're similar in size, similar in body. So
in current form, Richards looks like he could have his measure there.
When Ted Richards went on to Rewald, he didn't kick a goal for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So.
And Pavlich, he's struggled at times this year. The last couple of months, he's really failed to have a huge impact on games Fremantle's played. Chris Mayne, you'd think, would take Heath Grundy.
I'm not sure because Matthew Taberner's come into that side and been really, really good.
Yeah.
He kicked 2 goals on the weekend.
Taberner's a lot taller than Chris Mayne.
Okay.
So I reckon Dane Rampy might be the one that goes to Chris Mayne. Played on Jack Rewald, as we said earlier.
I think Heath Grundy's got a lot more body to him.
Yeah.
He's more of a body kind of guy. That's what Matt Taberner sort of is. A bigger kind of body that Freo have been using. So I think that might happen. And like Josh said, I wouldn't be surprised if Dane Rampy zoned off Chris Mayne and played on him.
Yep. Up the other end of the ground, probably one of the biggest matchups on the ground. It'll be Lance Franklin. We think Michael Johnson might go to him if he's up the ground, and Zach Dawson if he's a deep forward.
Yep.
We say that because Luke McFarlane is the bigger body that need to contain Kurt Tippett. Zach Dawson probably couldn't outmuscle Kurt Tippett in those marking contests. So that's probably why Zach Dawson will go to Franklin there.
Not to say that he'll outmuscle Lance Franklin.
Not to say that he'll outmuscle Lance Franklin.
But Buddy's marking form this year has just been extraordinary. So it doesn't look pleasant for Zach Dawson because he's not the strongest defender, let's be honest. But
he's not. He relies a lot on his cleverness and kind of agility, but agility maybe not really.
I was more raising the eyebrows on cleverness, but
okay.
But it does do what he's meant to do well.
Well, the very fact that he's managed to retain his spot in a side that's top 4, with a coach like Ross Lyon, is telling in itself. So,
well, the key here for me, boys, is if Luke McFarlane plays.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, Dawson's going to be forced to take one of these 2 big men.
Well, this is an area, even with McFarlane playing, that I think Sydney will really have the measure of Fremantle. Lance Franklin, you've got Michael Johnson, Zach Dawson, Luke McFarlane if he plays. You've got Lance Franklin and Kurt Tippett. Lance Franklin, obviously, is that huge lead-up forward. He can do absolutely anything. Kurt Tippett is that big body, can outmuscle you in the marking contest. I just don't see how any combination of these Fremantle defenders will be able to effectively contain these boys enough.
Yeah. Well, but a lot of people forget, and I think we've forgotten here as well, Sam Reid and Adam Goods as well.
Yeah. Well, we haven't forgotten, but that's just extra on top. There's just so many dangerous forwards. That's Sydney to worry about.
But having said that, Freo has had the best defence this year, arguably.
Yeah. Is Fremantle going to be forced to bring in Alex Silvani? I mean, he was a late withdrawal on the weekend.
I honestly think they'll have to.
I think that
because Alex Silvani, he fits the bill. He's a medium to tall size defender who's got a bit of bulk about him.
Yep.
And he did a good job, mind you. He's been playing the last few weeks, bar the game on the weekend.
I do believe he kept Lance Franklin goalless when he was at Hawthorn once. So
okay. Yep.
He can hold him down.
He's a genuinely good player, Alex Silvani. And Fremantle have good depth. As the top sides do. So I honestly think you're onto something there, Josh. I think they can afford to bring him in.
Let's move into the midfield, boys.
Yep.
Massive battle.
Kieran Jack.
Huge.
Kieran Jack is a big one, and there's a couple of potential matchups we can see happening here. One obvious one is that Crowley will go straight to him to try and limit his influence. Crowley might have a few other options.
Well, what I've actually analysed the midfield battle here, boys, and the last few times Ryan Crowley has gone to Kieran Jack.
Okay.
And often what Jack has done to break the tag is started forward. So don't be surprised if that happens again this week.
Yep.
Ryan Crowley, generally, Freo tend not to have too many surprises with their tag.
Yep.
You'd think he might go to, JPK, but I can't see them doing that just because Jack can really hurt you on the score.
But then with Kieran Jack, there's another option. Of course, he could go head-to-head with Nathan Fyfe, and that'd be a great battle to see.
And that's probably likely because Sydney will not want one of their prime movers to just be mercilessly shut down by Crowley.
Yep.
So it is likely that they'll make him go head-to-head with Fyfe and, make that sacrifice and say...
Oh, we're making a lot of assumptions here on ins and outs, but if Craig Bird comes in, I reckon here's a big chance you go to Nathan Fyfe.
You could also go to Stephen Hill.
Yes.
Yep. Ben McGlynn's another one who's an option there as a shutdown.
I honestly think that you must tag Stephen Hill. If he doesn't get tagged this week...
See, this is the thing I say with Ross Lyon. Ross Lyon is a type of coach that's predictable during the season. We saw this in the final against Geelong last year. He's the kind of coach... During the season, he's very, very predictable to who he sends Crowley to.
Yeah.
Come finals, you can see him sending Crowley to someone like a McGlynn or...
He likes to mix it up, I think, but with the midfield that Sydney have, the midfield power, I honestly don't think that you can let someone like Kieran Jack get away from him.
Fremantle's not that down on depth in the midfield either. They're very strong in there. I reckon they can go head to head.
All right, okay, well that's an interesting point. Let's assume that they do go head to head. Then the person that gets the tag would have to be a Malcheski, in my opinion.
Yep. Well, there's players like Mundy and Barlow, which we haven't even mentioned here, which could really come into the equation.
Yep. Well, yes, of course. But I think, assuming Crowley goes to Jack, I doubt these teams will go more than one tag.
Yep.
Fremantle, I honestly think Sydney, however, must tag Stephen Hill. Yep. That is a must.
So he's the man.
Especially on a big ground. Like ANZ Stadium is a massive ground.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Hill just loves to run.
He will ride you into the dirt, Stephen Hill. He's the kind of guy that can have 25 touches and 4 goals if you lead him off the chain. So, must be tagged.
All right, boys. Moving into our prediction for this game. The first qualifying final. Who do we think is going to win it? And who wants to kick us off?
Nate?
Before we do that, boys, one quick point. Who goes to Ballantyne and Walters?
Nick Smith will go to one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not sure about the other one. Reshaw maybe on Ballantyne.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like both defences have their work cut out for them. It's not just it's not just the Sydney, the Freo defence.
When these two sides are so strong on defence, they've got a lot to work with down forward.
Definitely.
Correct. I'm going to first of all say that these two teams, whenever we see them play, I don't want to use the word boring, but I want to say extremely tactical. Freo love to choke the life out of the opposition team. They set up extremely well.
Yep.
And Sydney do that, but they also have a very good mix of that with their run and carry.
We've seen quite a few low-scoring encounters between those teams recently. Yep.
Sydney to me is the best clearance side in the entire competition.
I agree.
The reason I say that is because their in-tight handballs are just excellent. Their ability to work it in, just those tiny little half-a-metre handballs, and then bang, out to a Jetta, out to a Malcheski, and they're away, unrivaled. And that's what Fremantle will have to keep their eye on this week. But then having said that, Fremantle, when they're at their best, they're really, really at their best. And they'll want to win this. They'll want to book a prelim final.
Yeah.
So, boys, I'm going to say that Buddy on return is going to be breathing fire. And he's going to put on his apron, get out a knife and a fork, and have a nice roasted plate of Zach Dawson.
I love it.
Yep. And he's going to feast on him. I reckon Buddy will kick 6, and I reckon the Sydney Swans will bring it home by about 15 points.
Well, I might continue on there because you've pretty much stolen one of my key points here. Buddy Franklin, I really do agree he's the key. I don't think Fremantle have an effective matchup for him, regardless of whether or not McFarlane plays. I just think Sydney's forward line will be too powerful for Fremantle. I'm going to say Sydney by 26 points. Lance Franklin, as Vinay said, I think he'll kick 6.
Boys, I take your points, but I think both forward lines cancel each other out. They're so good down forward. You got the smalls of Hayden, Ballantyne, Michael Walters, Matthew Pavlich, Chris Mayne down there as well.
Matthew Pavlich isn't
no,
but yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean. And down Sydney's end, you've obviously got Buddy. Exactly right. So I think they cancel each other out. So I think this game will be won in the midfield.
Okay.
If both midfields can get forward and kick goals, whoever does that the most will win the game. Simple as that for me.
Okay. So which team's that going to be?
Sydney. I think 15 points. You stole my tip. So, but I just think that midfield battle is just going to be huge. The ruckman as well, Mike Park, Aaron Sandlands, and get it down to their midfield. It's just going to be paramount to whoever wins the game.
That brings us to the end of the preview for the first qualifying final. There's links to the other 3 previews at the end of the video as well as news and views. Thanks very much for watching.